Well, 10 years in to our story as Southend United, and we've certainly had a pretty remarkable time of it. One of our most remarkable rises in any one club story. But today is time to turn the attention elsewhere. We will have a brief look at the end at what we're planning to do this summer with Southend United, but for now, it's all about the footballing world and all the other big stories in the first decade. What's happened in the UK football pyramids and the big European competitions? Well, let's go and see what all of the standout stories are. Reflect on what's happened since our last bookmark 5 years ago. Yes, hello, and welcome along to part 81 of Saving Southend with me, Daniel. We've reached the 10-year mark, and before we go ahead with our summer transfer window and preparations for season 11, it's time for us to have a little look at where the footballing world stands at the moment and see what's been happening in the first 10 years and in the 5 since our last bookmark that really stands out here. So we're going to have a look through the English, Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish leagues. We're also going to go through and have a look at the European competitions, the Champions League, Europa, and the Conference League as well. And we'll also have a look at some of the major international competitions and odd other bits and bobs, like the domestic cups in England. So if you're looking forward to all of that, then please do chuck a thumbs up on it. Those of you who have been regulars on the channel for a long time will know how these work by now. We start with the league that at the moment in this save, we are the most familiar with, because the Premier League is where Southend United are. And only once before have we ever said that at a 10-year mark. On that occasion, it was our first season in the Premier League, I think with Hemel Hempstead, whereas here it's our fourth season and we've just had a season in Europe, something very different to what we usually experience in these saves. So overall, a very good spell for us, but we're probably the only standout story in the Premier League. Other than Everton and Brighton being regulars competing for the top six, there's not really a great deal else going on. A few of the usuals that are sort of flittering between the two leagues. Forest have done it a bit, Bournemouth and Hull. We've also seen it with Southampton, Fulham and Brentford. But otherwise, apart from Sheffield United being solid in mid-table, there's really not a great deal to talk about. In terms of the winners, though, it has been a little bit more varied because City won the first two and the last two. If you go in between that, Arsenal had a little spell when their players were in their prime, 4 trophies for them, and Liverpool got another one as well in 2028. But let's move on to the Championship. Oh, and by the way, let me just show you this, because I said I would. Erling Haaland, the 10 years we've been here, had a bit of a barren spell in the middle, but 37 the last 2 seasons. First season, actually no, just the last 2 seasons he suddenly turned up. Before that he'd been pretty average. Maybe it's whoever the new manager is giving him a new lease of life. But Haaland with 37 goals in the last 2 years, and he is now 15 away from Alan Shearer's record. I'm sure he'll break that next year with 1 year remaining. Let's move on to the Championship and see what's been going on there. It is Burnley against Crystal Palace in the Championship final. Don't know if you can see behind my head here, there's a red button for administration. That team, let me just see if it comes up better on here. It's Luton Town. My club Luton Town, who lost 12 points and as a result got relegated from the Championship this time. Well, if ever there's anything unrealistic about this, eh? A club that's so financially well managed now, and they've just fallen down the pan. But again, it's the usual suspects at the top of the division. Norwich, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Leicester, Leeds. Reading perhaps a slight surprise there as well. Oxford and Salford down with Luton. Just looking at the rest of it, are there any massive standouts? I'd say probably not. Most of those clubs are either Premier League, Championship or League One to start with. But actually, after 10 years of a save, that's about the closest to the original Championship table you could probably get. Not far off at all. You can see the usual suspects in recent years winning it, including us 3 seasons ago. I would argue there's not many great stories in these top 2 divisions at the moment. Let's go and have a look at League One and see if there's anything different there. Blackburn lose the playoff final to Rotherham, 2 sides that did start in the Championship. And the top scorer is Joe Taylor, who starts the save at Luton Town, flying at Lincoln in real life. Top of the table, Preston, Charlton, Rotherham. Not much in terms of shocks there. Sheffield Wednesday going down to League 2 this year. And in the middle of the table, Forest Green have recovered well. Notts County are in there. But again, there's nothing enormously stand out. Most teams within a division of where they started. Rochdale had got back up 2 leagues as well, but they're now going straight back down in bottom place. Again, looking at the winners, Preston seem to be a yo-yo club. and not a great deal else to really reflect on. So it's all a bit disappointing in terms of the standout stories, a lot less than we saw in the head coach save. And to be fair, I've missed one there. York are 14th in League One. That's not a bad effort from them. 2 promotions and stabilising in the 3rd tier. As we move on to League Two, we see that Tranmere have been beating Grimsby in the League Two playoff final. Altrincham promoted from League Two to League One. Another double promotion from the National League there. Bromley were in the Football League but have just gone back down. Port Vale narrowly escaped a double relegation from League One at the start of the save. They finished 22nd. Dulwich Hamlet may be a story there as well. They're in the Football League and established in 15th place. Sheffield Wednesday had been down in League Two before a few years ago. They were at the top end of League One with us, weren't they? Are they the team that then went down or survived on the final day? They might have been the ones, actually, that Nathan Jones Port Vale sent down, weren't they? Just looking through the rest of the division, Crewe and Colchester up. But again, no real standouts. I think we've got 2 divisions as our biggest change, and maybe a few more clubs going up than going down this year in terms of the big names, which is a surprise. So let's have a look at the National League. Have we got anything there that can get us dancing? Well, I'm not sure. A big story, I guess, though, is Gillingham. They're going down to the National League South. Another relegation for them by 2 points. York were only there 4 years ago and Altrincham 3. So both have done well to get up to League One. Bury up competing at the top end of the National League. Good effort from them in 10 years. Stevenage out of the EFL. Currently battling for a playoff place in League One in real life when I'm recording this. And then a bit further down the division, Torquay not seeming to have the same troubles here. Morecambe have fallen out the Football League. Swindon have as well. But again, not too many massive standout stories this time. As we move on to the National League North, Darlington beats Scarborough in the final. Harrogate and Doncaster, the top 2 in that division. Doncaster and Harrogate both started in League Two. One of them now back up to the National League, but Harrogate having to suffer for a little bit longer. Of course, they did have a long non-league history. Macclesfield in the playable leagues again as well. The bottom ends, no massive shocks going out, although Oxford City did start in the National League. Any other standout Football League teams? I don't think so. But Scunthorpe still down there in the north. We had them in the National League in the 3rd season of this save, didn't we? Let's get to the south finally then. What's going on there? Dartford beat Aldershot, who had a relegation. Dover and Hemel, 2 of our former clubs in FM. They're up in that top playoff place as well. Boreham Wood, after a relegation, battling another one there. Dorking going out of the playable leagues this year. Looks like they're getting relegated from the National League in real life. Any other Football League teams in there? Sutton the only ones. They've dropped from League 2 to 6th in the National League South. But again, not a massive club that's fallen. When you look at previous years where we'd had Birmingham with a triple relegation, where we had Northampton out of the playable leagues, and actually, have Northampton been okay in this save? Because most of the saves, we've talked about the curse they've got. Where are they here? They're 8th in League 2. Have they recovered from anywhere? Yeah, so they went down to the National League in the early years, but they bounced straight back via the National League, and now they've had 3 solid years in League 2, followed by a much better one this time around. So, a little bit of a recovery from them. Finances starting to dwindle again, though, so maybe need to be careful there. But with the leagues out the way, let's move on to the cups. The FA Cup, we've never got close in, and it looks like it's been the big boys again. We know City have got championship opposition in this final, but basically bar Villa the first year, it's been shared out between Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea and United. No real surprises there. If we go down to the Carabao Cup, Everton beat Liverpool in a Merseyside final this time. Villa have also won one of them, as have Spurs. But otherwise, Liverpool in the early years, United, City, Chelsea, United again and Everton. Good effort from them. As we move down to the Community Shield, usual suspects, good run for Manchester City. EFL Trophy, any under 23 sides? Not since 2026. Last 5 years, Preston, Derby, Barnsley, Stoke, big sides at that level. If we go down to the FA Trophy, couple for Barnet in the last 5, Dulwich before they went to the Football League and Altrincham too. But Blythe, the latest winners with a 5-0 win over Scarborough. That's a cracking effort from them, isn't it? So that's English football out the way, and perhaps not the big stories we were expecting to see. So with that done, let's move over to Scotland, and we'll start as always with the Scottish Premiership. Well, a battle in a relegation playoff for the Scottish Prem, and no Old Firm player in the top scorers, but my God, look at that. Bar the first season, in fact, no. Rangers have won 8 out of 9 in the first 9 years. Celtic are starting to wrestle it back though. They won it 2 years ago and they've won it this season. But Rangers the dominant force. Raith Rovers in the SPL as well, as are Broth. But Raith not having the same effect as they did in our banger save back in FM21. Dundee becoming somewhat regulars in Europe in this save. Maybe they've sorted their pitch out now. We move down to the Championship. Well, let's see what we've got in here. St Mirren stay in there after a 2-2 draw, or will that end up being a second leg? We'll wait and see. St Mirren playing with St Johnstone to try and get back into the SPL. No massive stories in there. Livingston top yo-yoing. Ross County though, down from the SPL and now down from the Championship. They're going into League One, double relegation for them. You can see a few of the clubs that have dropped down. Dundee actually doing well to be in Europe 2 years in a row, considering where they were 4 years ago. And Kilmarnock have won it a couple of times as well. Dundee United not looked back since their early promotion. In League One, Dumbarton playing Peterhead in a relegation playoff. Peterhead relegated as a result. Inverness back up to the Championship. Hamilton still in League One. And otherwise, everyone else pretty much unsurprising. If we go and have a look in League Two, let's see what's been going on there. Fraserburgh and Invery Locos near the bottom. Brechin back in the playable leagues and staying strong. They actually won League Two a few years back. But again, no massive surprises down there. Perhaps a couple of sides you would expect in the Scottish leagues that aren't there. Maybe that's the bigger story than anything that's happened within it. I suppose Ross County's double relegation, a fairly big one. Scottish Cup has been won by Motherwell last year. Celtic have Aberdeen in the final. Hibs and Hearts have picked one up apiece, but generally Celtic and Rangers have had about half between them. 3 for Rangers, 3 for Celtic, and a few dotted around elsewhere as well. The Scottish League Cup has been dominated mostly by Rangers, but Raith Rovers won it first year. Wow! Raith won the Scottish League Cup in the first season. Hibs, Aberdeen, Hibs again, and this year Celtic beating Rangers in the final, but Rangers had a good spell a few years ago. And the SPFL Trust Trophy, my favourite. How many non-Scottish winners? Just Larne and TNS early. The last 5 years, it has been Scottish dominance in that one. Ross County got to the final despite their relegation this year. What's Lennon Miller doing down in the second tier as well? He's got great potential, hasn't he? But not quite made it in this save. Let's go over to Wales and have a look at the top tier there. Well, we did get excited at the 5-year mark because Barry had picked up a title in season 4, but that has not been backed up. It's been all TNS since. Llandudno fairly close this year, but not really doing a great deal, are they? So 5-point win for TNS. They make it 6 in a row since Barry's solitary win. They're now back down in mid-table. If we have a look at the North and South, we're a Bangor FC. They're at the top end of the North, Barlow winning that one. And then in the South, we've got Cardiff Met Uni winning again. Hard for them to compete in FM as an amateur side. So maybe more what we expected there rather than what we hoped for. Let's finish the domestic look around with Northern Ireland, where it has become a streak of dominance for Larne, who have won the title at a canter again. That is now 8 out of 10, with Linfield winning the other 2. They were pipped second by Coleraine, but the top 3 are all in. Cliftonville must have won the cup because they're now in Europe as well. But there are some decent players about in this league, certainly some decent finishers. So maybe positive signs for Northern Ireland moving forward as their league has shot up when it comes to the competition reputation for Europe. Let's have a look down at the Championship, where are our former club Distillery? They're still in there. They're in the top half. They're doing all right. Our FM23 side competing. Warren Point have made it back to the top tier now. And then if we have a look in the third tier as well, any big standout stories? Not really. No big surprises in there, and no one that started in the top tier. So overall, maybe not the most exciting league turnaround for 10 years. Let's see if some of the big competitions can change that. We'll start with the Champions League and move through the European comps, where at the moment, Real Madrid are having another spell like they did under Zidane. A big one for them as they've won 2 in a row and now face Barcelona looking for 3. No English side in the last 4 seasons that'll be, as PSG got the one before. They're 3rd in 10 years. And Arsenal picked up a couple in the middle. Liverpool got 1. But otherwise, no real English competition. Not what we usually see for a save where we only started with the British leagues and Ireland loaded. That is a real surprise to me. Normally, if you've just got the UK and Ireland, you'll see the Scottish sides overperforming and the English side dominating European competitions. But this time, absolutely not the case. And Kylian Mbappe by the looks of it, still going pretty strong. Let's move on to the Europa League, where I think we all know who the current holders are. That miracle game on Saturday, just a miracle progression in this save, really. And on the flip side to what we said a moment ago, this one is full English dominance. That is now 7 winners in a row. Hertha Berlin and Leipzig, the only 2 non-English winners in this save. And then Chelsea sandwiched them. But since then, big boys from English football. United, Spurs, United, Liverpool, Newcastle, Everton, and now us. But the top player in this competition, Adam Idar. There's a surprise for you all. Let's move down to the Europa Conference League. Fiorentina won it last year, but Arsenal are in a final against Standard Liège. Aberdeen got it last year for Scottish football. That's what we talked about before. Again, Fiorentina before that. They've won it 3 times so far in this save. Villa started it and have won it twice. Juve got one as well. And Everton, on their way through, picked up a trophy too. Real Sociedad, who we beat in the Europa League semi-final, got one in 2029 as well. Samuel Omarodion, a star from our Luton switch save earlier in the year. He's the top scorer in this competition. But second is Casey Worcester, who was at the very start of this save at Southend United. He was a youth player who in the real world start had pre-agreed a transfer to Newcastle at the end of July. He went, he's there in real life, and he's become a very good player in this game. We almost signed him back once or twice along the way too. Let's have a look at the Super Cup just to see if the English sides are getting a steal on Real Madrid. They are by the looks of it, because they've only won 1. Everton beat them this year, and it has been English dominance there. So when they're directly coming up against each other, the English sides are normally prevailing. I guess the problem with those is that we're not perhaps seeing enough of those games during the competition, and the English sides are maybe losing poor games or getting drawn against each other. Let's go and move on to the international side of things though. We will have a look now at the World Cup and the European Championships. Has the Nations League got any importance yet? And who's been winning the World Cup? Are we going to see the English dominance? No, we are not, because in addition to the France win in 2026, we saw the Netherlands win it in 2030. Another league that wasn't loaded at that point or any time before it. Just trying to work out the host there. Oh, it is India hosting it. Just because I saw Brazil, Argentina and Japan qualified already, but that could just be when the leagues finish. Netherlands winning the last World Cup. What about the European Championships? So perhaps the biggest story here is not the winner, because since you were last here for the 5-year bookmark, France have won their 2nd successive Euros, followed by Italy in 2032. But look who Italy beat in the final after extra time. Italy 2, the Republic of Ireland 1. They've got a fully fit Evan Ferguson who's at Real Madrid. They've got a great player in Simon Mackey at Roma. Kennedy's class, Bazunu's still going. O'Day, a player we tried to sign years ago at Birmingham, is elite. I mean, this is a really decent side. Stephen Kenny's still in charge. They've still got a few experienced pros in there too. But they have brought through a few youngsters alongside them. You can see why they're probably coming towards the end of an era. There are young players that are going to be a big part of their future. Sean Kelly is another youngster who is really good. Let's just get the ages up here, because you can see, look, O'Day 25, Mackey 25, Kennedy 25. I mean, a lot of the other players are still in their 20s. Ferguson's only 28 here. He's a really good side. Jack Morehouse is in there. God, he's been out on loan a couple of years. I forgot he was part of this squad. He's played in a Euros final. That is remarkable stuff. What a story that is, if nothing else. Can we have a look at the Nations League? Does that show up here? Let's see if it does. No, it doesn't. Let's get through to it individually. There we go. England did get a trophy after all. The 2030 European Nations League. France won it after that more recently. Their 2nd one of this save. And Portugal added one in 2028. So England did get something, but maybe not enough to really ride home about. So overall, maybe not quite as dramatic as we're normally used to seeing at a 10-year mark. I would say certainly less in terms of big stories when it comes to the Football League and the English Pyramid. Couple of double relegations and promotions, but not a great deal else. Ross County, the only real standout ones when it comes to the Scottish leagues. No shocks with the sides at the top in both Wales and Northern Ireland. And maybe the only real surprise is that the Champions League has been so non-English side dominated, considering we only had the British leagues loaded for the most part. Perhaps that's the story to take away here. At international level, definitely Ireland in the Euros finals a big one. But let's have a look before we go at this Southend United squad, because we are going to be back in a couple of days' time for a summer transfer special here. And for me, there is a lot of work to do with a couple of players coming back from loan, a couple of players where we either need new contracts or to be sold, and hopefully the demands won't push on too much. I've got probably 4 transfer targets in mind and 2 other positions I'd like to improve. 2 of those targets are one position, so it will only be one coming in. I know a centre half I want, I know a left winger I want, and I need to improve the fullback areas where I've maybe not got those targets so much. But we will be saying a few goodbyes as well. I would expect Adeniji to go. I would expect one of Adozie and Sam Ammo to move on. And I would expect to see a few players go out on loan too. Maybe Sanhueza as one of the young strikers. But overall, we're in a really good position here. The players we've brought in have been brilliant. We've still got that core of experienced English players, and I would like to add a little more to that too. But look at some of those signings from last year and how they've worked out. Lewis Herbert has become one of the best players at the club and a world-class centre-half on a free transfer. You look at people we signed in January, Berek and Maurizio, going to have a really important role as we move into next year. And even some of those who are reaching their potential. And don't forget the likes of Jimenez, Bernberg, etc. They're going to become homegrown at the club for the Champions League, which is a massive thing for us moving forward, particularly if Adeniji does move on. But for now, let's leave it here. Our 10-year bookmark is out the way. And I should very quickly, actually, before we finish, no, I've missed something. I haven't had a look at my profile. We are now a 3.5-star reputation manager matching our club. We've actually, and I will be honest with you here, I've skipped ahead 2 more days to start my transfer window. And I've got my first coaching badge on the way. So nice to finally be accepted after about 6 attempts. Maybe it was just a major trophy that was needed. We've got a good reputation. We've got okay attributes in some areas. Not sure why my level of discipline is so low. But our career statistics overall, they're coming back towards the positive now after a couple of years battling relegation. 4 promotions, 2 league wins, 1 cup. And that cup came last week. A massive finish to the season as we went past 500 games in charge. We've won just over half of them, 51% overall. We've averaged nearly 2 goals a game. We've averaged more than 1 against as well. But the club goal difference overall is great. The record is pretty good. And to be fair, to have won more games than we've drawn or lost is a really good effort, especially when you consider the first season and you consider the battling against relegation in our first 2 Premier League years. Our record transfer is still 21 million for Joe Wills. Expect that to be broken this season. But for now, if you did enjoy this little look around the footballing world, and please do put a thumbs up on it. Let me know any standout stories for you from this bookmark. Did I miss anything while going through the pyramids? Or is it just a slightly underwhelming one compared to normal? Northampton curse, it may be over. They bounce back a little in the next 5 years. But will we continue on the upward trajectory next season? If you want to stay up to date and find out who comes in and leaves the club in our summer transfer special, and subscribe down below and turn that notification bell on, as we will be back in 2 days' time to start our 11th season. We've got Champions League football because of that ridiculous Europa League final in our debut European season. And despite finishing 10th in the league, we're going to be playing at the top table for the first time in our history. Hopefully, we'll be doing so with all of our stars still here. We'll find out in a couple of days' time if we are. In the meantime, we'll be back with the head coach tomorrow in an absolutely bonkers season at our new club. From meltdown on Friday to pride on Monday, what will it be tomorrow? Quite frankly, it could be literally anything. If you want to see the season so far in that one, I would recommend it even if you're not up to date with a save. You can find it up in the eye above. There's also links up there to the Twitch channel and the football podcast for regular content from both. Come and get involved in the predictions from the real footballing world as we go towards the run-in in all the leagues. And thank you very much for watching along as always. Your support is massively appreciated. I'll see you back here on Thursday afternoon as we start season 11 and prepare for Champions League football for the first ever time with Southend.